Our last break of the day on this Friday. Take us home.
Today, I'm still committed to trying to uplift everybody. I really want to share, not teach. I want to share with you all just some things I've learned. And understand, I don't know it all. And I don't think I know more than you. It's just that I've learned in my life that repetition is sometimes good. Somebody told me one time that there's a scripture, I don't know where it is, but it says something to the effect that faith comes from hearing, not from having heard. And I didn't understand that until I got older. Faith comes from hearing, not having heard. Sometimes you've heard something in the past, but it didn't quite connect. But all of a sudden you hear it at a particular time in your life, and oh my God, it's like a brand new phrase. It's almost like you've never heard it before, but it clicked, the light bulb turns on. So that's what I was taught, that faith comes from hearing, not from having heard. So sometimes repetition is good in wise sayings or understanding a scripture, because at a particular time in your life, it's so valuable to you because it happens right when you need it to hear. So in my commitment to uplift people this year, I've decided today to talk to you about another mindset that you have to develop to get to where you're going. And that is to elevate your thinking. You've got to elevate your thinking. You have got to think above your current circumstance. Because where you are now, the moment you say now, as soon as you get through saying now, that moment that you claimed as now is gone. So what I want you to do is I want you to start thinking beyond today. Because for the majority of us, tomorrow is going to come. For the majority, tomorrow is going to come. So I want you to elevate your thinking so that you can have a better tomorrow. And what I mean by that is, I want you to up your ask. When you're talking to God, from now on, up your ask. The things you've been asking God for, I want you to think about it. Elevate it. Expand on it. Blow it up. It's not too big for God. It may seem tremendous for you. It's nothing for him. It's absolutely nothing. It's a wave of a hand. It's the blink of an eye. It's a mere motion to him. It's nothing. It's an afterthought. He does amazing things, but you've got to call on him to gain access to all this amazing stuff. There's a scripture that says, you have not because you ask not. And simply what that means is just what it says. You have not because you ask not. Most people don't have the life of their dreams because they never ask God for it. Now you think about that. What have you been asking him for? If you've constantly been asking for rent, don't he always give it to you? Don't you somehow always manage to come up with the rent? Might be a little bit late, but don't you come up with it? Yeah, you do. Suppose you change that and just ask for a mortgage. Why would he not give it to you? It's just some money to where you stay. That's all it is. So if you keep asking for rent, you're going to get rent. But if you ask God for a mortgage, he'll give you a mortgage. But you have not because you ask not. You got to up your ask. Let me show you something. This is not bragging, but I want to show you something. You're listening to a person who's been at just about every economic state. So at one point in time, I kept asking God, I said, God, man, I sure want to see another zero in my income. If you could just give me another zero. So I was making, some thousands back then, right? In a year. I've had years where I've made $4,000. I've had years where I've made $7,000. I've had years where I made $8,500. I've had some lean years in this comedy thing. So I asked God, man, if I could just get another zero. But you know what I did? The zero kicked me up to 10,000. And from 8,000 to 10,000 spread out over the year, I did not really see a big jump in my lifestyle, because the $2,000, it elevated it, but it wasn't quite what I wanted. And so I just kept asking for zeros. Do you know what happened one day? I was talking to this very, very wealthy guy, and I told him my theory of praying for the zeros. He said, "You praying too small." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You praying too small. You asking for zeros." He said, "If you get another zero from 10,000, you'll have $100,000. He said, "That ain't where you want to be." He said, "Why don't you ask God for some commas?" I said, "What?" He said, "Why you keep asking for zeros? Commas change your life. Ask God for commas. Elevate your thinking." When I went from asking God from zeros to commas, do you know he gave me another comma? Do you know what that did for my life? Do you know what it would do for yours? But you can't get it unless you ask. You have not because you ask not. Elevate your thinking in this year. If you up your ask, he will up his give. It's a fact. It's not a theory of mine. It's a fact. You have not because you ask not. Those are my closing remarks.
Drop it.
I'm telling you.
Drop it.
I'm telling you.
Drop it.
A comma.
Man.
Woo, have a good weekend. For real.
Y'all have a great weekend.